Right now on the flip side, it's episode 35, and it's all about getting more hope into your life. It's an incredible discussion.
Okay, wait. What this is really about is...
Happy birthday.
It's Curt's birthday. So, we have a cake. We have the number 35, which is a complete lie. This should be in both places.
Join us.
Here answering the aging question.
Right.
How do you give a 55-year-old hope?
That's right. So join us right now on the flip side. Hello and welcome to the flip side. I have an incredible announcement to make. We got my good friend Ray Johnston on the flip side. We're in a series called Let Hope Rise, and my hope just went through the roof because Ray sat down in here.
Well, that was easy. I'm done here.
All right, see ya.
And of course, we're also joined by the smartest business person I know, and that's saying something. CJ Alvarado's back with us. And so, guys, let's caffeinate up and talk about hope.
Today's a special day for you, buddy.
I know.
It is.
We can't blow
Matter of fact,
back
it's 55th time this has happened.
It's Tuesday.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Curt Harlow's birthday.
Say
Half-life. I'm going to live to 110.
So at Bayside, what do you get to do around your birthday? You get to work. So
That's
welcome to work,
exactly.
baby.
I got here at like 6. So to keep us going, though, Haley, what kind of coffee do we got here?
Right.
Well, because it's your birthday, we brought in some of our beans from the African continent.
My faves.
Ethiopian beans from Temple Coffee with tangerine, mango, and stone fruit flavors. So it's going to be really bright and citrusy. And that's what Kurt likes. So that's what we
Let's
brought.
get this going. My hope is rising to another.
Not today.
Okay.
You're not. What
It's
about
all for you, Kurt.
What about you, Ray? Are you gonna have some coffee?
Yeah, I am if it's bright and citrusy.
Well, but here's the thing, Ray. We've been working together for almost a decade now.
This is all both.
There we go.
Your cup. Put it in your cup.
Okay.
Flavor notes of caramel and cocaine.
It's sugar.
Bright and citrusy and
There it is.
no taste whatsoever.
And then Hannah is.
You got a birthday cake.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
And
It takes a
since you're-
long
since
time to
you're
light these.
Yeah, what's going on with
35,
these candles?
and there's the-
35.
I don't think we're gonna do the
This
factory.
is the
It's
35th
just
episode.
Okay,
too
that's
much work.
Here we
for
go.
us.
Yeah.
There might be an HR issue
By the way,
with
if
the
you
sprinkler
catch this
system.
thing, 35. Where'd you find a 3?
Okay, so can I just tell you, I have one policy when blowing a cake
All right.
out.
Oh, yeah.
Make my mouth very dry first.
No
That's
kidding.
smart.
That's my courtesy to you. All right, here we go.
Good man. Look at those.
The lung capacity of a 50-year-old.
Happy birthday.
We'll cut it later.
We're not gonna do birthday.
We will save you not saying. However, we would both want to say this. The day you were born and the day you came here made all of our lives way better, mine especially. So,
I agree.
thanks for being born
Here, here.
and for coming here.
Hey, it's a privilege to work with you guys, all you guys, and it's we have had a great, incredible life, Kelly and I. But the second I came to Bayside, I got a whole lot better, and so I'm glad to be here.
So do we all.
Speaking of which,
Speaking of which,
we are talking to the author of The Hope Quotient, Ray Johnston, who is, not only do I work with him, he's one of my best friends in the world. And what you teach on, what you live, what you exemplify in hope is one of the best and most powerful strategic things we do around here at Bayside. So we're in a series. This is kind of our unpacking the sermon series a little bit more. We're in a series called Let Hope Rise, coming right out of the most hopeful thing that ever happened, Jesus Christ's resurrection on Easter. You preached the sermon this last weekend. Just start off by giving anyone who doesn't know yet, what is the concept behind a hope quotient?
okay, it was funny. Because when you write a book, number one, it took 7 years to write that book. Because I did not want to write a trite book about hope where you're going, I just found out I had cancer, trust, that sort of thing. And so...
Pinteresty, Instagrammy version.
Yeah, I was going, look, what at a deep level causes it? And after like 2 to 3 years, we were like, this is more complex than we thought. Like some people in very devastating circumstances have hope, and some people that have pretty nice lives are miserable.
Yeah.
And we went, what are the factors? And it took 7 years. We surveyed 1,000 people every state. I was a professor, so we ended up doing research stuff on this. And what we discovered, there are 7 things that if somebody will build them into their life, they have hope. But if they don't build these things into their life, they're in real trouble. And it's interesting. I come back to my own book occasionally. Like if I wake up discouraged or if I'm bummed out about something, I'll just stop and I'll go, whoa, which of these 7 am I, in other words, are my batteries recharged? Are my expectations? I mean, literally, I'll walk through point by point to find out what's wrong. Because what's wrong is never my circumstances.
So the quotient is really just a way you can test yourself, measure against, what are you building into your life? Instead of just going, and I feel discouraged, I have no reason why. This is like a mirror that helps you identify those things that either are building or taking hope away.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. The Bible's the best psychologically accurate book ever written. And if somebody is willing to go, fundamentally, are there things in the Bible where it says if you want to be healthy emotionally and psychologically and relationally and spiritually, or if you're going to raise kids and you're going to go, I want these kids to actually be healthy and be high-functioning, great people, these 7 things are the pillars that support it. And you start pulling these pillars out and people collapse emotionally, spiritually, or otherwise.
Just give us one example of one of the quotients. We're preaching and teaching through this, so Baysiders are going to be familiar. But for the wider audience out there, what's one of these things? These pillars?
It's funny. They build on each other. So the first chapter was recharge your batteries, because if your batteries aren't, nothing goes forward running on empty. That leads to the second one, which is raise your expectations. And what I'll give perfect example last week, okay? The Golden State Warriors lose the best guy in basketball, Kevin Durant. He gets hurt out of the playoffs, and they huddled up. Now, the team they're playing, the Houston Rockets, you back up a year, they did nothing but whine. I mean, Chris Paul gets hurt, they lose, and their response to losing last year was this. They had 2 responses. Number one, we would have beaten the Warriors if Chris Paul had been healthy.
Right.
That's number one. Number 2 is nobody found this out, they discovered it this year. They sent the commissioner a tape of the entire game with commentary of every blown referee call that cost them the game. True story.
Wow.
And they said the refs, was it a conspiracy? Whatever, the refs cost us the game, and Chris Paul's injury cost us the game. Okay, so their response to loss was 2 things: blame, and the second one was what was it? Blame and excuses.
Yeah.
And so excuses and blame. Now, excuses and blame never lead to a great future. This year, the Warriors lose the best guy. And you list all of them. They huddled up, and they all went, all right, next man up. And they had no intention of losing. And sure enough, then they beat the team without their star that said last year they would beat the Warriors if he wasn't hurt, and he still wasn't hurt, and they still lost. Yeah. And so it's funny, I think underneath this whole book is this premise, man, nothing great happens through you until it happens in you. And I think what you learn from the Warriors and the Rockets is this: it's not about talent, it's about having inner strength.
So I'm going to take this moment to advertise our upcoming Pastors Sports, because we're talking about this, and I'm going to be the first subscriber because there are so many great leadership lessons that really just get played out on the ball fields and basketball fields.
It's funny. Like,
endless.
Part of this, you're going, the Bible values humility.
Yeah.
Okay, now LeBron James, who I think is a great guy, good role model, good dad, good all of that kind of stuff, but he's the only guy I know with a tattoo, the chosen one. And there's been this debate for years, why do people don't want to go play with LeBron if they're really talented? Because when you're the chosen one, there's no
room for anyone else.
Some.
You're going to take the chosen 2 or 3 or 4.
Exactly. So
we're not talking positions.
Let the NBA draft begin.
You talk a lot about. I got a couple questions for you, CJ, but as long as I got this, let me follow one. You talk a lot around here about the balancing mission and morale. And I think a lot of leaders get this hope thing wrong. They think, you're a Christian, you got to have hope. Let's just go after mission. Talk to me about how you came to that idea of like mission and morale. Well, how does that work in a real world leadership setting?
Oh man, that's the embarrassing stuff. A few years ago,
you're welcome.
Probably 10 years. Yeah, thanks, Curt. Happy birthday. About 10 years ago. And this is embarrassing. I started feeling like our staff isn't that healthy. They're not that happy, but the church is exploding. The church is great. And the staff should be in better shape than the church, not the other way around. You always want to have where you're going.
That's interesting. Say that again.
the staff should be healthier than the church.
Right.
Lots of churches, you go and it looks great on Sunday morning, and you find out what's really going on, you're going, this is not good. And so I brought in an outside organization. We did a massive study, and I got direct anonymous feedback for 145 people on our staff. I read this thing, I was wrecked. I mean, I got shredded inside out, upside down. My first thought, to be honest with you, that does it, I quit. And then I thought, wait a second, I'm not quitting, I'm firing everybody. I can get these attitudes for free. And that then led to me, my wife read it, and at first she was shocked. She said, who are these people? I said, they're the people on our staff. And then a day later she goes, I don't know, maybe we should pray about this, wives. So maybe you should pray about it. So I pray about it. And then I take some of the smartest people I know. I go to Southern California for 2 days, and we read every word. It was embarrassing and hard. We read every word. And what I realized is the whole thing went clear. I went, oh man, it's like lights on. It's all mission and morale. And mission is great things happening, and morale is people are healthy and happy. It's the exact thing Paul said in Philippians, where he said, I'm staying here for your progress and joy. Progress, mission, joy, morale. And I literally went, I have been stepping on the mission accelerator and not paying attention to the morale accelerator.
So good.
And I called our whole staff together. I actually got choked up. I apologized. I said, we will get this right. And that started a multi-year, health is more important than growth. We want people on our staff to live well, love well, and lead well. But it changed everything.
What's interesting to me about that story is you leaned into hard news to get to hope. So most people run from the hard news thinking they'll get more encouraged by avoiding the hard news. But the way to hope for you in that situation is you had to lean into the hard news and go, I have to figure out actually fundamentally what's wrong here, or I can't be a leader that walks in hope.
Yeah, my first thought though was I'm out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You had to, in a sense, first reactionary ideas are never a good idea.
Yeah. So no one in the business world ever loses hope. So it's just a stable, calm environment.
We've had some good dinners talking about this.
We sure have. Yeah.
Honestly, if you're talking to a business person out there and going, you have to actually have a great reaction to difficult news and keep the morale of your staff up. What are some of the advice that you would give them? How do you do that in the real marketplace?
I think Ray hit the nail on the head. I think it starts with, with us as leaders. One of the lessons I feel like I had to learn was, what we don't transcend as leaders, we end up transmitting. So if I don't feel that hope, if I feel that discouragement, if I let that settle in, I'm going to transmit that to everyone in my organization. Yeah. And you can't get momentum, you can't pursue mission, you can't do those kinds of things well when you're spreading that all around. I think oftentimes we feel like if we do share it, we'll feel better. But that's like saying, if I share the flu around, everyone will feel better, and I will feel better. But really what ends up happening with that is everybody feels sick. Everybody gets sick. Totally. So that if
I'm going to be miserable, my whole team will be miserable.
Right. So I think that as leaders, as Ray says, you've got to find it within yourself to transcend that, and hope is in my personal opinion, hope is the indicator, having something that, you can lean on, something that you can stand on that's going to help you kind of navigate those things. That's where it has to start. I love Mike Tyson's quote, the great philosopher Mike Tyson. He says, everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face. and in business, that's what's going to happen. You have a plan, you have an idea how things are going to go until an obstacle or something comes in your path, and then you really kind of see what you're made of.
One of the thoughts I've been thinking about lately is, I'm problem solver, that transmits that stress that you're talking about. So part of what causes the morale problem with the teams I lead is I want the problem solved. I want it solved today, and I want it solved with excellence.
You and me both.
And so I'm grinding on that, and it makes me a grumpier and grumpier person. Yeah. And I've kind of had to do this switch where I went, solving the problem is not going to give me hope. Hope is going to help me solve the problem. I have to start off from an optimistic, hope-filled place. I got to rehearse the good news. I got to look at the past record of where God's come through and where we've solved problems and where the team did well. And then I got my hope built up. Now I'm going to bring that to the problem. Instead of thinking I can bring my little-minded, grumpy leader self to the problem, and then if I get it solved, I'll have some hope.
Sure.
Because there'll be another problem. I got to get the hope to solve the problem, not the reverse.
I love that.
So
I love that.
Yeah,
so
that's smart.
here's one of my questions, just in terms of, and both of you take a shot at this. Real world problem solving, real world getting punched in the face, real world parenting, real world spouses, real world roommates. How do you actually, can you be a realist and look at facts and have hope? I mean, sometimes I just feel like I start my day, I have my devotions, then I go to the news, and I was like, that was a mistake. Should have never went to the news. I should have stayed in the devotion. Can you be a realist and an honest person who looks at the news of the world and actually be a person who walks in hope? And if so, how?
Oh man, I think for me, I feel like yes. I feel like hope is in some sense releasing God's energies on the things I can't control. And the things that I can't.
Whoa, say that again. That was really good. Did he steal that from you?
No,
I'm going to
That was really good.
I feel like hope is releasing God's energies on the things I can't control. So I am a realist. In fact, I always say I'm a sunny pessimist. I tend to be pessimistic first, but I tend to be kind of a pleasant one.
Right. A polite, kind one.
A polite one, yeah.
Yeah, you're usually well groomed, and
Thanks.
you're enjoyable to be around in your problem.
But I do feel like, there's a lot of data out there that can paint a glim view of things. That said, you take that as an input, but you have to be able to look at hope, I think, or have hope in order to lead well. So yes, you need to be informed, but yes, you need a truer north star or something that is guiding you beyond just those data points, in my opinion.
Yep. I would look at it this way. Fundamentally, there's two directions you can go in life. You can choose your inner life, or you can absorb your inner life.
Wow, that's really good.
And so, two people can be in the same setting. One of them gets better, and the other gets worse and worse and worse. And the difference is that you can choose your attitude, or I can absorb my attitude. Like if I have bad circumstances, I absorb that bad. Whereas other people in the same bad circumstances, they choose a different perspective. The problem is this: if I am absorbing my attitude from people and circumstances or news or whatever, then I am a slave to those circumstances, and I literally have chosen to put myself in a prison of emotions that I lock the door from the inside. All prison doors emotionally are locked from the inside.
And I've heard you say in the past, that whole stance is like being perpetually in middle school. You're just so impacted by the environment around you. It's middle school for the rest of your life.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that's one of the reasons why Steve Jobs looks at one set of circumstances and goes, we can do this. Every single person said, no, we can't. And 99% of the people absorbed that and walked away. Steve Jobs went, no, I'm choosing to believe we can do it. One guy shows up and chooses that, and it's a whole different future. Same thing, the book of Nehemiah. I think the same circumstances, for 92 years.
Yeah.
One guy with hope walks in the door, and 52 days later, something gets built that people said for 92 years could not happen. It's funny, we had an old guy named Larry Crum in this church. I was at his memorial service about a year ago, and this church is about 3 years old, and it was exploding and stuff like that. And Larry came up to me one time, and he goes, I've spent my entire life wanting to be in a church that was to see this happen, but I never thought it would. And he goes, I love seeing God do what everybody tells us is impossible.
So good.
And so I just think if somebody wants to choose to be chained to low expectations,
Right.
because of the circumstances, that's a choice. It's not your circumstances' fault.
So for 2 summers, I worked in a nursing home. And what I discovered in the nursing home is there were 2 types of people, only 2 types. One type of person, no matter what you did, no matter how many people came and visited them, no matter how nice the doctor was to them, no matter how good their roommate was, or they had their own private room, there was nothing you do to please them. They were as grumpy as possible. This one lady, she literally would cuss at me every day about her pillow. This pillow, I would switch the pillow. I started switching the pillow without telling her. And she would sing the same complaint about this fellow. There was another lady, her husband was in another wing with a stroke. She had multiple health problems. She had one son out of state at visit her like twice a year. Godly, kind. Every time I saw her, how can I pray for you, Curt? Curt, you're doing such a good, and guess what? Who got the best care? She did. Every single nurse's aide would be in there. What do you need? What do you need? She just glowed. Yeah. And I'm like, that's where we're all going to end up. You're either going to end up the get off my lawn guy or the person that everyone goes, you know what? To the very last second, I want to get in a room with you. And it's because you're making that deliberate choice.
Yep, that's right. But if I'd have two things to add. If somebody listening to that says, I don't want to be that first person, the question is this: how do they get out of it?
Yeah.
That's why I wrote Hope Quotient. Because you're going, if you want to become a person emotionally that's happy, you can't change the circumstances. Sometimes you can. But you go, are my batteries recharged? And what do I need? What drains me? What recharges me? Do more of that. Are my expectations raised? In other words, you need a biblically based plan for how to develop emotional. Second thing is this. CJ, I'm just impressed. Kurt's talking about nursing homes on the day he turned 55.
I know, right?
So has that been on your mind recently?
There, we could just let that
I
pass.
decided I'm going to go to 110, and I'm at half life right now.
That's right.
I'm
halfway, baby.
This is just everything up to this moment was implied for the next 5.5 decades.
It wouldn't surprise me. You're like the healthiest eater I know. Which is why
not today.
We never got this.
That's right.
Not today.
It's true.
They had pie for me in the other meeting. So
We gave pie.
No, we did not.
here's the last question for both you guys, and I kind of know the answer because I know you both personally and watch your lives and what you do.
Let's make up new stuff.
But surprise me on this one. How do you keep your personal hope up? If you're a leader out there, you're a mom out there, you're a business person out there, you're a dad out there, and it's just been a harder season. What are the disciplines? What are the practices? What are the habits that keep you encouraged?
Oh, Ray. All right. I think for me, I try to start the day focused on gratitude. About 3 years ago, I remember vividly, I was, still early in launching my company. There's a ton of stress. I'd jump out of bed. I'd grab my phone. My eyes barely adjusted to the screen. I'm looking at email. We had clients in New York, so the day had already been started by the time I was up. Immediately, I'm out of bed, in the shower, feeling stressed out, barely would say hello to my family. I'm out the door, off to the office. What I started realizing was I'm getting to 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so and going, my whole outlook on things has been dictated by the things that I've initially just started putting into my head.
Yeah.
I'm looking at email and whatever. I've allowed these things to literally dictate my view of what I think the day, the week, the month, the year could hold. So I remember making a conscious effort to go, this isn't right. So first thing I started doing was no phone, no email, nothing in the morning. In fact, if you tell my wife the last 4 or 5 years, mornings have been like sacred. So nothing really gets in the middle of the morning for the most part. Wake up. First thing I try to do is, focus on at least 3 things I'm super grateful for. And this may sound cheesy, but I can't emphasize how transformational it was for me. I vividly remember a time waking up where I was like, wow, there's so much to be grateful for. And what it ended up doing was disarming ego. It started disarming a lot of the things that I felt, really unhappy about or stressed out about. What it gave me was a deeper kind of repository or source to live out of. I think that, and Ray's actually mentioned this before, you can have a view of scarcity or a view of abundance. You can approach your life with a lot of scarcity or abundance. And I feel like that gratitude kind of gives me a better place to jump off from and lead from and live from and all that good stuff. When you feel like there's just so much you can be thankful for, you just lead and love and live a whole lot differently. So that's one of the small practices for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very good. I'm very convicted right now.
Oh, sorry, Curt. No,
I'm in the world of watching emails in the first 30 seconds.
That's funny.
Or seeing, what other people have accomplished on Twitter that I haven't gotten to yet, even though I'm 50.
Oh, no, I check too, but it's not until about 9:30.
No. That's good. It's very, very good. How you start the day deliberately. What do you do, Ray, to keep yourself encouraged, filled with hope, right perspective, best version of yourself?
I do too. Well, I do a bunch of stuff, but fundamentally, one of them I do is this: put yourself in settings that are encouraging. I mean, you go, why are most people deeply discouraged? Because they're in so many discouraging settings. Okay, now those might not change. That's why I'm going. Like I met with a guy the other day. He's not a Christian. Okay, this guy had nothing to do with faith. Not a Christian. We had a great conversation. I mean, he's a really great guy. He's going through some tough stuff, and he said, "What advice do you have?" And I said, "Go to church every week." And well, I'm not a Christian. I go, I know it will be good for you. Sing the songs. Listen to the message. I go, surround yourself with these people that love God and love life. And I promise you, it will rub off. You will be better. Talked about 3 weeks later, and he goes, I just don't believe in this stuff. But he goes, I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
I just go, there's some, I go, whatever, you study yourself and you go, what settings do you put yourself in? Okay? And so, to me, that's number one. And the second thing's more internal, which is a few years ago, I was reading about David and Goliath and that whole, battle. And what I realized is this was not David versus Goliath. The entire nation was supposed to fight Goliath. However, they were miserable, shaking with their tents, fear, discouraged, depressed, had no positive vision for the future because Goliath looked so big. One guy comes along, David, the least qualified guy.
Yeah.
And he goes out and wipes, he's like, what's the big deal? Goes out and wipes him out. And I went, it's interesting because that's not David versus Goliath. The real story of that is, what's the difference between David and everybody else? Okay? And I realized David, the people were terrified because they were focused only on the problem, so they expected defeat. David was looking at the same problem without the resources, but he was focused not on the problem but on God, so he expected God to show up and help him. And a lot of times I'll look and it happens to me when I'm taking a shower early in the morning. If I'm discouraged about something, I'll go, wait, you're discouraged not because of your Goliath, you're discouraged because you're focused only on the problem and you're expecting only defeat. You know better. Focus on God, expect God to show up and help you, and now let's go live.
Yeah.
So it's just some of that's internal stuff.
Some of it is just any problem you compare to the size of God will put that problem in its place. In the worship we sing, magnify Him. That's what that means. Let God be as big as He really is. And so, I was thinking about this question earlier, and I was thinking really deep leadership thoughts, and then this thought occurred to me. I thought, what do I actually tell the Thrive students? I meet with the Thrive students here at Bayside every week, and I actually have a lot of advice on this, on especially Christmas. It gets real busy. All that. And what I tell them? I say two things over and over. Eat something green. Go to bed on time. And I have find about myself. I mean, there's no leadership grade 5 practices. But it's the truth. If I will get 8 hours of sleep and eat something green, eat something, and then have a hamburger, there's feasting and fasting. But they think at that age that sleep is optional and that eating healthy is optional, except for some of them. And it's just interesting. I put good things in my body.
Yeah, good.
I let my mind rest and have a couple laughs with friends, and I will regain perspective back.
Yeah, that's great. You guys know who Herm Edwards is? Herm's an old football coach. I mean, phenomenal football coach. They bring him in to speak to all the NFL rookies. They put him in a camp because a lot of these guys are self-destruct. Yeah. And Herm and his guy's motivational and strong and gets in their face. And they said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I get it for the first time." And he goes, "All right." He goes, "Here's my total advice. 1. You do this. He goes, you're coming to the NFL. You're riches, women, all this kind of stuff." He goes, "So here it is. 1 woman. 1 gold chain. 1 person in your posse. 1 car." He goes, "You do that, you'll be fine."
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just simplifying.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what's that? Green stuff and get a good night's sleep? That's
Green stuff and get a good night's sleep. So, hey, you know why I like this book, Hope Quotient? I have so many books and sermons and podcasts. They tell you what you're doing wrong, but they don't tell you what to do about it. My personal least favorite thing in sermons is when they say, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong. No, I'm going to tell you how to do what's right. Like, give me a formula. The beautiful thing about this is every single one of these you could build into your life, and it really will increase your hope. So get a copy of my friend's book, The Hope Quotient. Pastor Ray, Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here, man.
Thanks for being here.
And happy
CJ,
birthday.
Thanks for being here as
My
well.
pleasure, man.
My friends, I want to ask you to do me a favor. I want you to like it. I want you to subscribe to it. I want you to share it. And I want you to leave a comment. In fact, we're going to do a whole episode, right, Haley? We're just going to get all the questions and all the comments from the last couple of weeks, and we'll just boom, boom, boom. We'll talk about coffee. Someone came up to me at Thrive and gave me some Hawaiian coffee saying, forget that South American and African debate you have going on. We have the real beans here. We will address the Hawaiian bean controversy in a future episode. So if you need someone who needs some hope and some encouragement and wants to go deeper into the messages here at Bayside, get them this podcast. And thank you so much for doing that. We'll see you the next time on The Flip Side.